hospitality operators should be knowing is people come to their venue for the experience. So we're not selling food, we're selling the experience.
Today on Dirty Linen, we are talking Tasmania, where I was really amazed and interested and keen to learn more about the fact that Nepalese is actually the third most spoken language in the island state after English and Mandarin. Hobart, capital of Tasmania, is also home to Australia's only Nepalese pub. And we are talking today to Kiran Thapa, who is the owner of that pub. There is so much to Kiran's story, and I am really keen to dig into it today. Welcome to Dirty Linen, Kiran.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me this opportunity.
So there are so many strings to your bow. You are a Nepalese-born Australian entrepreneur. You've got all kinds of fingers in different pies. When someone asks you what you do, how do you describe yourself?
I describe myself as an entrepreneur, always looking for opportunities and then trying to create jobs and then create something out of nothing.
Amazing. And so tell me about opening Australia's first Nepalese pub, the Chowk, in Hobart, Tasmania.
We were actually doing a flower field in Orielton, which is just 35 kilometers of Hobart. And then the flower field, actually, we would have some cafe and some dessert bar and so on. When we had that border closure issue due to the coronavirus, that COVID thing, I couldn't go there and we couldn't do any work in the farm. And that's when we decided, okay, how about we go and start doing some dessert bar instead? And that's when this alcohol bar came up for sale. And then when we got this pub for sale, and then I just didn't know what to do and how to do, then I then took a big step, and which is a kind of like gambling as well, to define this as a Nepalese pub, because it's just the only Nepalese pub, because no one has actually done this before. I'm not saying the idea was new or anything, but the stake was too much. The rent, the premises, and then the project was too big, and then putting that Nepalese tag on any alcohol and then the food venue was a kind of big gamble to me. And that's how we got this Nepalese pub started out of nowhere.
Well, it's a great story, and there's so much to what you've just said. I mean, let's start with the name. What does the Chowk mean?
The Chowk actually is an intersection, which is very popular Nepalese word. And when we're going to invite our friends to hang out somewhere, let's go to the Chowk. And, we got lots of Chowk, the intersections we call the crossroad actually. And then not only the crossroad, but also provides lots of cafes and, people to hang out and, get together. So it's just kind of very easy word. Let's go and, meet there type of thing. And then that's how we pick up that name.
And so, I mean, who is your audience? I mean, there are thousands of Nepali people in Tasmania. Are they your main audience, or are you trying to expose the broader community to Nepalese food and culture?
No, actually, we're trying to include all most of my customers are obviously within the 3-kilometer radius of my South Hobart venue. And then we also got the Nepalese people residing in Tasmania. They are my second client base. And then the third one is lots of Nepalese and other people visiting their friends and family in Tasmania. It's their go-to place. I'll tell you one thing is there are lots of Nepalese population in Australia, not only Tasmania, everywhere. And then most of the hospitality venues are actually supported by these people, like in the kitchen and in the hospitality and the nursing industry and the engineering industry. All these people are there. And when you go anywhere, chances are that you might meet one or two Nepalese people. So then people obviously have some curiosity how they eat, how they actually bring this culture. And then that's why actually I wanted to bring that Nepalese livelihoods. Nepalese people are very happy. Nepalese people are very loyal. Nepalese people are hard worker and honest. So, and then they also celebrate hard. And then that's why I just wanted to actually showcase this Nepalese cuisine, because there are lots of other hospitality venues doing that in our Nepalese community. But the problem is that they are not bold enough to promote the Nepalese foods only. I mean, they have been tied up with some South Asian type of thing, but putting that Nepalese food on the table and then trying to serve the Nepalese foods only is a big step. And then that's how I want to actually cater all the broader audience, and obviously my customers are within that 3-kilometer radius, and then the people living in Tasmania, and then people visiting Tasmania from interstate.
I mean, it's true. Like every kitchen has Nepalese people in it in Australia, and they're often, the absolute backbone of kitchens. I mean, we spoke recently to a Nepalese kitchen hand who works at fine dining restaurant Vue de Monde, and he's absolutely crucial to everything that restaurant does. So I love the idea of bringing the culture more to the fore, and really having that thread running through the restaurant where it's not just that the people are making everything happen. It's that you get to eat the food from their culture as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tell us some of the key dishes that you're doing there.
We got like signature dishes which we call Mustang ko aloo, which is Mustang is a kind of like Himalayan region. I'll tell you the story. I'm not the kitchen person. I'm not the celebrity chef or anything, but I'm a very avid traveler. So I love traveling all around Australia or whenever in Nepal. I travel a lot, and every time I go and encounter a new food from that particular region, then I actually work with my kitchen team. Hey, can we put this on our table, and then see how we actually serve to our broader audience. And then the foods that we have also got from different parts of the country where it is actually widely used. And the couple of like signature dishes that we have, for example, are like Mustang ko aloo. Mustang is one of the most popular tourism destination in Nepal. It is a trans-Himalayan part, and then it is a sacred place for Buddhists and Hindus. So people eating that type of recipe, that the spices and the way they eat it, we actually have brought it here. So which is a crispy fried potato which we cook with the Himalayan spices and then serve with buckwheat pancakes and salad. So that's one of our signature product. And also another one is a rice wine, which Nepalese people actually drink in a traditional bowl with some snacks. Obviously, we don't actually drink alcohol by itself. Like we always have some snacks on the side, and then which we call the Sol Mari ko Dabaka. So on our menu, I spent quite a lot of time in designing how the people who do not know anything about Nepal and Nepalese food can actually find these foods on our menu. So kind of menu engineering, I have done that. And like when you walk into our menu and when you look at the page of our menu, it is very obvious for you to figure out what our signature dishes are.
Wow. I mean, it's so interesting that this is your first hospitality venture and you come with this entrepreneurial background and outlook. I know from your website you've got a PhD in finance. You've taught finance and private wealth at universities, and you've got your own, financial advisory business. A lot of people, that have, I guess, being brought up in hospitality find the business side of it, pretty challenging. And of course, the last couple of years have had, incredible challenges. As someone who's got, a real interest and acuity for finance, how does the hospitality world strike you?
Actually, before I jumped into finance field, I was a civil engineer too. I actually did my master's from Melbourne Uni and then in engineering, and I actually worked for the local council in Stonington Council, Chapel Street. I was there working as a traffic engineer. So the engineering background.
You got so much going on. It's just down the road from me. You probably sorted out some roundabouts that I drive around.
That's right. So the engineering background that I have actually helps me look at the things differently, break down into the the processes, and then then rearrange again and things like that. So the hospitality or any other businesses, you got the product or service, and you also got the marketing and sales. So they're separate compartments. So being very good at food, being very good at one thing is not enough to survive or to be successful in a business. So there should be a multiple wheels, operating at the same time. We need to have the marketing, we need to have the sales, we need to have the operation and product development and service delivery, and of course accounting and finance. And not our team in Hobart, obviously they are the service delivery team, but we also got some people helping us from Nepal who are helping us with the graphic design and the social media management and things like that. And as you know by now that I'm in Sydney, so I'm actually providing all the guardian the support, like a coordinator of everything. And then looking at the hospitality, what I found is obviously, it's a tough industry, but it can be scaled up. So for you to scale that up, I think whoever is starting into the hospitality, they need to set aside first 9 months, I would say. The first 3 months is about testing your idea or the product, how well is it being received by the audience, and then the second 3 months would be looking into the consistency of that idea. So, and then the last 3 months would be setting the standards and systems so that you measure each and every item. You got exactly the recipe book on in the bar or in the kitchen. No matter whoever actually makes that dish, it's presented in the exactly same manner. Most of the hospitality businesses, when you have the changes in like the kitchen staff, then you can see the change in the taste and presentation and everything. But I mean, that shouldn't be the case. So we should have some standards and systems set in place. So the first 3 months about testing your ideas, second 3 months is about maintaining that consistency, and then the third 3 months is about standards and systems. So when we do that, then I think the venue is actually ready for scalability. So then you can actually expand elsewhere, or you can actually increase the sales, because getting the lots of customers into your door doesn't necessarily mean the profit. You know what I mean? So until and unless you have that unit cost, product pricing and all these things done, then getting enough guests, a lot of guests is not going to make you the profit. So it could be a different industry, but every business is the same. So, and we are in our 9th month, the third quarter. So we are working on the setting up standards and processes. So,
wow, so interesting. And I mean, can you talk a bit more about that consistency? Because I mean, I was at a dinner last night and somebody asked me, what do you think is the most important thing in a restaurant, when you're looking at a restaurant? And I said, I think it's consistency, because you want to be able to go back and have a similar experience, or send your friends there, and, you want them to experience what you experienced. But I mean, tell us what some of the systems you're putting in place to ensure that consistency.
The recipe must be written down. Most of the people in hospitality, I found, is they actually got everything in their head. So they run by the emotions. So that needs to be written down on the paper and then put in the folder in the kitchen. So what I mean by that is, so the recipe, the process, and then the finished product, how it is being served. So that color page for each item that we have on our menu is in our kitchen. So no matter whoever whoever is coming as a chef for tonight, they're going to follow exact same procedure. And we also got the monthly audit system where I go every month, and then I just go to the kitchen, and then as they are serving the food to the guests, I just ask them, what is the name of this food? And they go, blah, blah, blah. And then I just find that food on my recipe book and then go, okay, now your presentation is different from what we have on the paper. So I'm not saying that you might be doing, trying to do better than this, but it's not what we have on the recipe book. So you might be better at cooking food. You might be better at, making some amazing dishes. But in our venue, whatever we have written on the document is this is how we want to present. But if you want to try new things, then we're going to update it maybe next quarter. So we're going to update the recipe book every quarter. So no matter whoever is serving the food, whoever is serving the cocktail, it's presented exactly the same way that you have on the recipe book. So I think that brings the consistency. And then the other thing is also that I do every month is I go and do the auditing of the kitchen, bar, floor, and everyone in the, almost everything in the premises. I actually randomly ask a few front of the house staffs and then ask them to describe some of the dishes from the menu. And the questions that you just asked me, like what are our signature dish, what is our, a core product type of thing, and then I just want to see how they actually describe those products. So they might have their own opinion, but that may be different from what I actually wanted as an owner. So what I have done is for each and every product, we need to have the description of how I actually wanted to describe this food. So this one should come first, and this one should come second. So that's how actually we actually trying to bring the consistency. That means documentation of recipe, documentation of processes, and documentation of everything that we do. And people have some kind of misconception that this kind of documentation is too much, and this is done only for the bigger venues. But I actually don't agree with that. No matter how big or small your business is, we need to be doing this because that's what brings the consistency.
And I mean, some of the things people are talking about a lot in hospitality at the moment is, how hard it is to find staff, and also food costs are a massive one, especially when a lot of people are carrying, debts and, stress and exhaustion from the last couple of years. How are you finding hospitality? Like, does it seem quite challenging as a business, or are you finding that, 9 months in, you are able to be as profitable as you hoped?
Staff-wise, we actually are lucky in Hobart because Sydney and Melbourne and other big cities are actually suffering that staff shortages. It's also most of the people working in hospitality are from international background, and then they actually are driven by migration to become on their way to become a permanent resident in Australia. So you can't actually offer them like someone $100,000 and keep them in your venue, because they're not going to become a permanent resident by that $100,000. So what they're actually trying to do is, as per the government policy, they're actually spreading the population back to the regional areas. So generally people come in bigger cities first, spend a couple of years, finish their studies, and then go to like regional areas like Adelaide, Hobart, Darwin, and like places like that. So we have been very fortunate to get that inflow of the talented and skilled manpower. So that side is not an issue. And then the second one is obviously the food cost is obviously increasing, so which is a bit of challenge. But this is kind of like temporary thing, I would say. I mean, any food cost that you have, I mean, you should have unit price anyway. So and then you also have got that margin. So what I found in the first 9 months is I have worked out all the unit prices, and then what are the margins I want to maintain in my food, in my drinks, in my beers, in my stovies, in the wines, and cocktails and so on. So, and when I know that okay, this we have sold this much for today, then I know that this is how much I'm making money. So I think obviously the increase in food, the vegetable price and the food cost is a bit of concern, but as I see it, it's going to be temporary in nature, and at the end of the day, you got that unit price changed, and you also look at the margin. So the margin might be squeezed for a while, but when you have this system and everything in place, then when the things are better, then I think we will be fine. So of course, in terms of your like finance side, the first few months, obviously, any hospitality business would have kind of honeymoon styles. So everyone wants to come and try those things. So don't get too much excited when you are selling X or Y amount of turnover per week. But after that, it gradually settles down. And then I think the sales that you are doing, especially in the winter, Hobart gets really chilly. In the winter, we have reduced our closing time as well, and it's very hard to get people to get out of the bed, let alone to the pub, in the winter. But we are trying our best by offering promotional campaigns and by giving them the vibes and the live music and everything. So I think this is something every hospitality business should be doing, and they should acknowledge and admit the seasonal variation that we all go through, and then we have to be prepared for the campaigns and for the promotions. So, and the sales that we have since the beginning of our pub, obviously we were impacted a little bit when we were hit by the coronavirus. But apart from that, even in the winter, it's actually picking up the sales and it's meeting our expectations.
Do you feel, you've got this overview of different kinds of industries, and you see yourself as an entrepreneur first who happens to be in hospitality? I mean, Do you think that overview is helpful?
Yeah, that's right. Because people have got a kind of like misconception that you should be coming from the same field to actually succeed in the business, but that's not true. People coming from different field might have different experience. Obviously, having knowledge in the field can help you a little bit, but that's not the only factor to succeed in the business. So if you gave me any business example, they all could be broken down into certain departments like marketing, sales, as I said, operations, product development, service delivery, accounting, and finance. So that's how the ITO has been tracking down all the businesses into a few of the parameters. So I think when you work in one sector for long, then obviously you gain again the experience. But at the same time, you also develop some behavioral biases, psychological biases that you know everything and you stop growing, you stop learning. That I call the overconfidence. And overconfidence is actually a killer in any business, in any sector.
So you mentioned at the start of our conversation about this flower field that you have in Tasmania. I know that flowers are really important in Nepalese culture. Is that the angle that you're coming from? Is it these sort of ceremonial flowers, or what made you have that business?
No, actually that flower we call makamali, which is a Nepalese word, but the proper English word is gumfrena. And that flower we actually comes in different colors, but in Nepal we got predominantly purple in color. The flower we actually use in Deepavali, like we celebrate Deepavali over 5 days. And one of those days we actually use that flower as a garland and then extend the blessing between the siblings. The flower actually, even if you take that off the plant, it actually lasts forever. Literally literally longer. And then the significance of that flower is that the garlands we exchange between the siblings, the color lasts longer. That means the relationship between the siblings are supposed to last longer. And what happened was when my kids were actually using those garlands and playing cricket in my Summerhill, Sydney backyard, they dropped off the seeds and then it actually shot up automatically in my backyard. And I was looking for some inspiration. Yeah, I had a farm and I was looking for some inspiration to create some ecotourism project, and that flower actually gave me that inspiration. And in the first year, right in the middle of the COVID, I actually started that project. Knowing all these adversities, I actually went to Hobart and locked myself in 14 days mandatory government quarantine, and then came to the field and we actually tested that flower. That not as much as I wanted, but I came to the conclusion that we could do it. And then the second year, it's an annual plant, not the perennial plant. So second year we wanted to scale this up, but the border was closed down, and that flower field has got a potential for developing as an ecotourism project, just the way how we go to lavender and tulip and so on. The flower field will also have some cafe and dessert bar and some animals and launch and dining experience, and then some accommodation facilities too. So hospitality was completely new to me, but I actually had done years of research in setting that flower field up, and which actually helped me in this Chowk.
Wow. Yes, so interesting. So, Kiran, it's a really difficult time for a lot of people working in hospitality and people that own hospitality businesses. With your great experience, like what advice could you give to somebody just in terms of mindset and strategy about, I guess, finding a way forward?
Yeah, I think first thing is about listening to podcasts like this, where you can get the perspective from different people. You are doing a great job by bringing people from different backgrounds and different nooks and corners so that they share their experiences. And that actually helps us to be open to new ideas, to be open to innovation and things like that. The second thing is when obviously it's not getting easier for the next few years when we're fighting with the inflation followed by maybe potential recession and all these things. So it's going to be tough here, but I think this should also be taken as an opportunity rather than giving up and quitting on what they are great at. They should be taking this as an opportunity to look at the things. How can they optimize their production? How can they set up the system? How can they set up the standards and make it ready for scaling up when we have the next leg up? And the third thing is mindset is always important than everything. So, just like you need to be very optimistic, you need to be very positive, and then you just cast on whatever experience you have so far, and then just consolidate those experience and try to make it bigger and better when things are actually going to be better in the future.
Love it. I cannot wait to go to the Chowk in Hobart and just experience this Nepalese pub. A different version of the Aussie pub. So cool. Kiran, make sure you say...
I'm sorry to interrupt you there. The Nepalese pub, not only because we serve Nepalese food, the music we play in our the public area is also the Nepalese music only. We play national anthem at 6 o'clock. Australian national anthem followed by Nepal's. It's to celebrate the Nepalese people's lifestyle or livelihood in Australia, and we pay respect to one is our motherland, another one is our the land that where we actually putting our hard works and looking for better opportunities. And then the foods that come from are served in a very authentic way. So we got, for example, kids meal. We couldn't find any better kids meal in our Nepalese menu for the time being. And then we decided to offer, let's say, nuggets and some fries. And to balance that, we gave them some fruits, fresh fruits like apples, strawberry, and some blueberries, because that is not a typical Nepalese food. We thought of, we were kind of hesitant to charge money on that, and that's why we actually launched kids meal for free. If it was on the menu, then we would have charged them, but if it's not on the menu, that's why we don't charge them. And then we also decorated the venue with the Nepalese, traditional Nepalese feel and vibe and ambience, so that when you walk into the venue, you feel like in Nepal. And Nepal is one of the countries where we got lots of festivals. When it means festivals, food and drink and dance is obviously there. And every month, for example, on the 29th of June, we celebrate a festival where we actually drink yogurt and beaten rice to celebrate the planting of paddy fields, rice. And on that particular day, whoever walks into our venue will be offering that typical food that we would serve in our country, in Nepal, to our guests. We'll be offering that for free, because there are certain days where we celebrate the Nepalese festival, and the guest happening to be entering into our venue for that day will be getting a taste of what it looks like. So if you are planning to go down there, make sure you go to one of those nights.
Wow. I mean, you just make it sound more and more appealing with everything that you say.
Hospitality operators should be knowing is people come to their venue for the experience. So we're not selling food, we're selling the experience. So, and then investing a lot of time and thinking about creating ambience, and then the way we serve the food is all about creating that, offering that better experience. So people come to the hospitality, not for the food, for the better experience. So invest in that.
Everything that you say about the pub, Kiran, just makes me want to go there more and more. I can't wait to visit. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and insights and enthusiasm with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Dani. Thanks for giving me this opportunity again.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.